Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name's Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. Very special session tonight, 6 p.m. for our Royal Mail Fleet and Engineering members. So on that basis, delighted to be joined by National Officer representing those members, Carl Maden. How you doing, Carl?
Yeah, good, Chris. Thanks.
Good man, good man. So we'll kick off by saying, obviously, the union has been in talks with ACAS. Those talks continue as and when there is an update, good, bad, indifferent to bring you. We will bring you that via Dave and Andy. These sessions we've got starting with this one for Fleet and Engineering members, and then at 7:30 tonight for Parcel Force members are very specific about the conditions and the changes Royal Mail Group want to make in those areas. So we want to give you an update and give you the chance to question the officers accordingly. So overall updates on negotiations, not tonight. That's going to come, at the appropriate point whenever there's something to say to you. Carl, I wonder, and obviously on behalf of our Fleet and Engineering members, one of the reasons we got this session is so everyone feels part of the union. We make sure that this union leaves no member behind, and we bring everyone across the line with us, whether that be taking strike action or ultimately delivering an agreement. I've got loads and loads of questions to go through with you, as you'd expect tonight, but I wondered if you wanted to kick off, buddy, give an overview for our Fleet and Engineering members.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, and good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining. What we wanted to do was do a bit of an update and obviously give you the chance to ask questions of what's on your mind. Just want to make it clear, this is, Fleet Engineering, and that includes the Parcel Force engineers. So hopefully we've got some Parcel Force engineers joining us, and we will. And, we've been within this. I'll start off with Fleet. We've been in talks for some time, and Fleet were not putting forward any sort of proposition. Then we met, and as you know, the 31st, so a week ago yesterday, the business sort of put a new proposal to the business, and that didn't include Fleet. And I asked for a letter of what it did include for Fleet. Unfortunately, I've not received that letter. But what we do know from the previous position that we had rejected was that, plus what the business had announced up to that point, was that, there was threats of compulsory redundancy, reductions in terms of MTSF. Also, this is for engineering as well, but reduction in sick pay, reduction in the ill health retirement terms. Within Fleet, they want Fleet to work an extra 5 hours a week at the base rate, removal of the weekend overtime multipliers, compulsory weekend working 24/7, where current rotas would be removed and replaced by Royal Mail, harsher attendance standards, and they were also gaslighting our members in Fleet, because the director put out a communication where he claimed he'd been in talks with the CW. Obviously, I contacted the director, spoke to him about it, and got the impression that he'd accepted that he'd have to withdraw the comment. However, what they did instead was they carried on briefing our members in the workplace, which led to me writing to him on the 12th of October. Also, what they have done since then, of course, is they didn't pitch it as outsourcing, but what they said they wanted to do was buying the repair of Fleet. Obviously, after some further questioning, it became clear that that was outsourcing. Absolutely no two ways about it. And obviously, we have agreements around that within Fleet. And the fact that the outsourcing had never been mentioned before, that has come through, and quite clearly we're not going to accept that. And in fact, that goes back on a promise that that, Royal Mail had even put out during our dispute, because they put out a question and answer, and within that, they put their own question, because we were saying it could lead to outsourcing if they, unless people back the dispute. And what they put was, we have no plans to transfer work or employees outside of Royal Mail. And so obviously they went back on their own promise to their employees there. Within engineering, and obviously whilst Parcel Force is a separate pay negotiation, they are part and will remain part of the engineering community. We haven't actually had a formal proposal in writing, apart from back in May or June, when we got the big list from Royal Mail what they wanted. I have been chasing engineering for a formal proposal, and today I got an email that just repeated the paragraphs on the what we want sort of communications that the business put out. But look, I want to make something clear, that whilst fleet and engineering may be minority grades in numbers, they're as important a part of the union. And even though fleet is a separate pay bargaining unit, no deal will be agreed until there's a deal for everyone. So no one is going to get left behind. That's one thing this union prides itself on. And quite clearly, in the negotiations, I will be in the room, and we will have fleet and engineering as part of the main negotiations. So that's a little bit of an intro, Chris. If I can just say one other thing, whilst this is fleet and engineering, we do, of course, have engineers in our MPFS. That is a separate dispute, and Mark Bolsh and myself will be holding a separate session for our MPFS, and the RMPFS engineers will obviously be part of that. So I just wanted to clarify that point, that RMPFS, whilst they're a separate dispute, we will be holding a session for them as well.
Thanks, Carl. That's brilliant, buddy. Good in-depth update for the members there in both fleet and engineering. Obviously got loads of questions coming in. Martin's helpfully entitled to questions. So Martin says, first question, any truth in fleet being sold off? So as you said, first question, Martin, I'll make it the first one. There you go, Carl. So that's quite a few members. Actually, I think it's worth saying we've had asked about engineering as well. Is the sort of current proposals and the current set of circumstances designed to lead to the breakup of a company with fleet and engineering being hived off?
Yeah. So as we know, we've had the legally binding contract that is and should still continue to stop the business from breaking up the company. Until the 31st of October, this had never come onto the table. However, they did put a proposal forward, which effectively they want to buy in the maintenance of electric vehicles, which, as you move from the current vehicles, petrol, diesel, etc., onto these new electric vehicles, if we're not having our own fleet members repair them vehicles and train to repair them, by the fact that the maintenance is being done outside, it would actually be outsourcing of that work. We have agreements that we intend to hold the business to, which is we'll actually bring more work in-house from fleet. That was one of the first agreements I did as an acting officer as part of the Pathway to Change agreement, where there was a lot of work being outsourced, and we've got agreements that work will come in. So yes, there is truth in the fact that it's their proposal. The union are not accepting that, and we will be doing all we can to prevent it. And, with the support of our members, I'm sure we will prevent that. I mean, it was remiss of me at the start, Chris, not to thank our members for the support they've showed us so far. I mean, the support they've given us in during our dispute has been fantastic. It does make you proud to be part of the CWU, but clearly, particularly within Fleet, they are up in the ante. So we will need that support to continue.
Spot on. Thank you, Carl. Steve-O here has asked, can you explain to the members what the removal of RRIS, RIS and DAS will mean when marking time?
Yeah, so effectively, this is the removal of RIS as part of their allowances, and them areas that get it, effectively, they will continue to be paid RIS, but when pay rises coming forward, they won't get the increase. So it does mean a pay cut, and they won't get a pay rise until such time as the pay rises catch up with the amount of RIS you get paid. And there's different areas get paid different rates. Not everyone gets RIS. So whilst people may think originally it's not a pay cut, it is, because if you're on mark time, that means you just stay on that rate and don't get any future pay rises. Can't hear you, Chris.
Sorry, buddy. Crawford Johnson, it follows up really on the sell-off one. Did Fleet still come under the pathway to change legally binding agreement, or can they sell us off? Obviously, we know that the legally binding agreement is one of the areas of dispute with the company overall.
Yes, Fleet are very much part of the pathway to change agreement, and they will be part of the legally binding agreement. But as we know, the business served notice on the legally binding agreement, and we are fighting, as I said earlier on, we're not accepting their position of the outsourcing at Fleet, and it certainly won't be at a whim, because we won't be allowing it to go at a whim.
Spot on, Carl. Thank you. J Max says, can you see engineering going to 24/7 working? And do you think if that does, Royal Mail will be offering us an appropriate increase in salary?
Right. So yes, 24/7 working, and to be honest, we had reached a proposal for an agreement for 24/7 working with engineering. We will have to move to 24/7 working because the rest of the company is. However, it has to be on terms that are suitable to our members. Now, what the proposals are for 24/7 currently is that you work weekends for normal rate as part of your duty, and also the removal of the Sunday supplement that's currently paid. That's not the type of 24/7 we'll be agreeing to, but it will be. It also has to be about, inventive duty patterns, supporting people who may not be able to, commit to all of that. But yeah, it will move to 24/7, however, not under the current proposals. And we will be looking to make that as favourable as we can for our members.
Spot on, Carl. We've got quite a few members, and I think you've effectively answered this in your opening introduction. Maybe they missed it, but quite a few members from Fleet who are asking, are Fleet in the room and are they represented at the negotiations?
So at the moment, we're in the main room and talking about getting into negotiations, but at the moment we're not in this. We're not breaking down into groups or departments, wherever you want to call it. But I'm sure when the time is right, Fleet will be in the room. However, from the previous things that I've mentioned, where they try to dupe our members into believing that we had agreed the last proposal they were putting forward, there's going to be a big issue with some trust there, and there'll probably need to have a discussion first. But I'm sure at some point we will be discussing Fleet in the room.
Thanks, Carl. An engineer member who very legitimately, in their view, is criticising the lack of information, lack of communication, saying there's a lot of stuff coming out for the Royal Mail as a whole, for example. We need more specific stuff for our engineer members. What would you say to that?
Well, there's not a lot of information coming out from Raw Mill on engineering, because I've been trying to get that for the last 6 months. There are no specifics. It's only the generic 24/7. If that's all Raw Mill want for engineering, which is 24/7 coverage, then as long as we can sort out the pay and keep allowances and that, I'm sure the engineering negotiation is going to be quite easy. I'm sure they will want a lot more than that, but Raw Mill, in my view, have purposely not put out a lot of information about engineering, because there was a narrative going around where if engineering weren't specifically mentioned, that they wouldn't be part of it. Let me tell you, they will be, and particularly the changes that I read out earlier on, the terms and conditions, they will certainly flow through to engineers around sick pay, changes to MTSF, redundancies, and everything else. So no one is exempt within this negotiation. But if people have seen a lot of information come out from Raw Mill Engineering, it hasn't come from me. And as I said earlier, I've been trying to get a formal proposal from the business for the last 6 months.
Thanks, Carl. Excellent. You wrote to the company, I believe, on the 12th of October in Fleet. I'm talking now back to Fleet. And members are asking, I think it's Rob Fowler, the respective manager. Have you had a response from him on that?
Very unsurprisingly, Chris, no, I haven't. I called out, the actions of the director at that time. I also had a conversation prior to writing that letter. I prefer not to be publishing them types of letters, and in fact, I'd prefer not to be having them sort of conversations. But when the manager attempted to con our members that we'd been involved in that latest proposal, then that was the only thing that I could really do. But no, the short answer is I haven't had a response.
Thanks, Carl. Spot on, buddy. And I appreciate you picking up the questions with such clarity, buddy, because we've got quite a few to get through. David Waugh's asking here, are Fleet the only section of Raw Mail I'm assuming he means having proposed an increase in weekly hours?
Yes. For our current members, yes, they are. And the business are saying, because that's the market standard, we know, or we suspect the reason that is if you can get people to work longer hours, that means that, should we pursue our shorter working week and be successful in that, or grow work and bring more work back in-house, it means they would have to recruit less people. However, within their proposal, new entrants, of course, will have their hours increased. I think that was to 40. But of our current members, yes, Fleet are the only group that are there's a proposal to increase the hours. Although I do have to caveat that, Chris, I haven't had anything formally from engineering, and if it goes on in Fleet, then who's to say their engineering won't propose the same thing a little bit further down the line?
Thank you, buddy. Connor McSkimming says, what are the new technician roles being advertised internally within Raw Mail Engineering, and how would that affect the AME roles?
Yeah,
sure understand the technical terms there. I don't know if you want to explain to our members what those terms mean as well,
Yeah, so look, this came to my attention last Friday, that there was jobs being advertised internally. They weren't discussed with the union. And effectively, this is an initiative from the business where that they're saying, and I did have a meeting this afternoon for half an hour, but quite clearly that wasn't long enough. And we're going to meet again. What the business is saying is we're having difficulty recruiting outside, externally, and there may have been people who have, got some sort of level of skills for engineers or technicians, and therefore they want to speak to them people and see if with extra training they can become engineers. Now, while that sounds a little bit plausible, I'm not sure that that is the true reason. And, further discussions will reveal that. I had quite a good meeting earlier on today where, at my request, we're going to hold another meeting where the CWU will get to fully understand what the project is. We believe it could be for a secondary workforce, which, hopefully that's not the position. But if it is, we'll be opposing it, because that can only be to do work either when we're in dispute or try to undermine the terms and conditions of engineers. So the AME is a grade within engineering already, and we were made aware of it. And as I said, I've had a brief meeting today, which was almost an introductory to what it's about, and we've put some further time in the diary. I will report on that, Chris, as soon as I find out more. I've been told that at the moment they're only seeing how much interest they get, and then from that, and I've said, well, we want to be involved in terms of reference. The union want to be involved in it. Otherwise, we'll be opposing it.
Thanks, Carl. Spot on, buddy. So, Jonathan here. We've heard lots of talk about buying allowances, reducing allowances, removing them. Says, are Royal Mail wanting to buy reserve rights off of fleet members?
That hasn't been specifically mentioned. I did mention at the start that they've said that the letter of the 31st of October wasn't a proposal for fleet. It also didn't count for parcel force. Davey's got his own parcel force Facebook Live on later this evening. So at this moment in time, because we haven't had a formal proposal of that, I'm unsure. But same as the others, some of the allowances that they want to buy or take off Royal Mail, then they're active allowances. So we'll need to get in a discussion on that, and we will report on that as and when we get the formal letter with a proposal for fleet.
On engineering, Carl, one of the things that has been picked up in the comments, actually, one of the things we noticed was that there's a new leadership within the company. There's a bit of a tour going on around the company and a selling of how great the world of engineering is, how great the future for engineering is. Stick with us sort of view. What's your view on sort of like we're in this massive dispute with the company, everyone knows what's going on, and yet like parallel to that is somebody saying this is all brilliant and I'll get on board?
Yeah, so the ex head of fleet has gone. So James Baker is, at my understanding, has left the company, and the new head of engineering has been going around giving his view of what what engineering for the future looks like. I haven't been able to get out to one of these workshops yet, but I do want to try and get. But obviously, my priority is trying to help resolve the dispute. He is saying, and he's not. He's going around putting a positive position on the future of engineering. Not really given much detail with us. I have had a brief chat with him. But he wanted to go and do his road shows first, and then probably come back and share with me, and the union will obviously be taking a close, hard look. But I do want to say, Chris, no one should be taken in by any of this. Engineering are embedded in our dispute. No matter how good that sounds, there's nothing on paper, there's nothing being introduced. And our engineering members, as good as that picture is being sold, and as I say, I haven't been to one of these presentations yet, but I do hope to get to one. As good as that is sold, my understanding is he's going to go to every mill centre around the country, introducing himself to the engineers and the engineering managers and giving his view for the future. However, engineers at this moment in time, whilst attending them, if that's what they want to do, should be focusing on the dispute and looking after the terms and conditions that are under attack. They can't, on one hand, be saying that engineering's rosy for the future, whilst at the same time there's the threat of the attacks on the terms and conditions that I've spoken about earlier on.
Thanks, Carl. Brilliant. I mean, there's a couple of questions, not many, but I want to take this point. We started it with Andy Fury and Dave Ward last week when we did a session around. There's a couple of people. There's one guy saying, understandably, I'm in Fleet. Will the rest of Royal Mail support me if it comes down to just us? Does the union care about us as much as it cares about, Royal Mail deliveries, etc.? I just wanted just a chance, really, Carl, to nail that. I mean, obviously, in the fact that you're on here tonight, Davey's on here tonight. We have reps who do a fantastic job all around the country in all of our minority grades. We will not be reaching any agreement that doesn't include these groups of members. So actually, it's almost the reverse. The fleet and engineering members and the task force members get to benefit off the collective strength of the whole of the Royal Mail group membership. But just a word or two on, do you care about us and will you look after us, really?
I mean, it is difficult sometimes, Chris. And one thing I want to say to people is when we talk about Royal Mail Group, that does include fleet, engineering, parcel force. All of them grades are part of the group. And just because you're not mentioned by name or by individual group, you are going to be looked after. There will be no deal until there's a deal for everyone. The one thing I think every single officer has said at one point or the other, there will be no grades left behind. So no deal will be reached without it. Look, we might have to go off into separate areas, as I do for engineering and for fleet around it, and doing what we need to do on the specifics. But listen, I'm going to be in the room. I have responsibility for fleet and engineering. Since I've been the acting officer and the officer, I've been trying to give the role that fleet and engineering do more prominence. And I have got the business to understand, that previously they were just seen as add-ons and, they're a cost base rather than an important part of the business. And we will continue to, make sure that we promote what fleet and engineering do and the important role they play in the business. And indeed, they are. I did say it at the start, they might be smaller in numbers, but they're as an important part as any other grade within the CWU.
Spot on. Thanks, Carl. Brilliant, buddy. An engineering question now. Lots of questions around, will weekend working be compulsory if Royal Mail get their way with their proposals that are on the table? And there's a lot of angst in terms of both the pay component of that, but also the mandatory element of it as well.
Yeah, if Royal Mail get their way, yes, it will be. And that's the same for fleet. However, what we are saying is we will look at doing 24/7, but as part of that, we have to look at different alternatives to making every single person compulsion to work weekends. There will be some people that might fancy just a weekend duty if we can arrange them. That different things suit different people in their lifestyle. Part of the union's fight, if you like, is to ensure that every term and condition that we have an influence in. Currently, every revision we negotiate goes to the members of that workshop or to the engineers in the mill centre for them to vote on. If Royal Mail get their way, Royal Mail do not like the rotas that fleet and engineering have. I know for a fact, because they've told me verbally, although they haven't put it in writing, I know for a fact that they want to move to a 4-on, 4-off, which will automatically put you into weekends. What we are saying is if you come and work with us around, good weekend, good duty patterns, we'll get the weekends covered, but it's got to be with our input, not imposed on us, and our members have to have the final say. Whereas under Royal Mail's current proposals, they're saying we want to take away the rotas, we'll impose what we do, and it'll be down to your line manager what rotas they want to impose. So if they get their way, yes, we're confident that they won't.
I mean, on that, there's another question come up from Ralph, who's it fits seamlessly. You could say it, obviously, if they get their way, they want to impose. And Ralph and other members are asking in engineering, will there be votes on these new duty proposals that are coming forward?
Well, yeah, if we, as part of our agreement, the duty proposals will be negotiated locally, because no two sort of mail centres or fleet workshops are the same. So currently what we do is they are done locally, where the knowledge is on the ground and members have a vote. If they like it, they'll vote them in. If they don't, as part of our democracy, then they'll vote against it, and we keep negotiating until we get the duties that they want. So yes, if we win this dispute, which we're determined to do, then we will have that in place. This is why it's really important for people not to think that they're not part of this dispute, and it doesn't matter what's going to happen, that it's only for the OPG grades or for the drivers or for the RDCs. Fleet and engineering are central in this dispute. And, these are just some of the reasons why we need to ensure, if it's called upon, that the support is there to make sure that not only what we want to get for the future, but we fight to keep our current terms and conditions.
Thanks, Carl. This one's obviously not really strictly in this session, although obviously it has a huge potential material impact, and not in the parcel force section either. But Mark is asking, and a couple of people are asking about the potential of Royal Mails. Are they alluding at closing mail centres? I think they used the word footprint review, didn't they, in their latest communications? I mean, and the potential impact, I'm assuming they're on in all of our members in those sites.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you see terms like modernisation or review of footprint review, it does mean that they are looking at that. Have they come out with any definitive detail? No. However, let's go back as well to the Pathway to Change agreement, where it said that they wouldn't look at closing any mill centre. So potentially that is another promise and part of our agreement they've gone back on, and why we need to win this dispute.
Thanks, Carl. Brilliant. So, I mean, good question here from Gary. He says, if Royal Mail want this sorted by the 15th, how does that leave time to sort out fleet and engineering? And, and now there is the scale of the challenges. I mean, you're at ACAS, and obviously we haven't got an update for the members on those broader talks. We'll have one as and when there is something genuine to say, hopefully some point this week. But, what I can see, and I'll put to you, Carl, is the scale of challenges are significant. And so I suppose it is natural for members to go, well, we're going to be belted on the end, or are we going to have time to do this? Is it realistic time frame in front of you?
Look, I mean, we're committed to getting an agreement, which has to be the right agreement, as quickly as we can. And fleet and to answer the question directly, fleet and engineering are part of Royal Mail, because when we talk about Royal Mail, we talk about Royal Mail Group. So it will be a group agreement, which will include fleet and engineering.
Thanks, Carl. That's spot on, buddy. Question here from Michael saying, are the ETC grades safe in engineering from the Leeds engineers?
There's no proposal to remove them, but that again, we haven't had any detailed formal proposal from engineering. So I would say currently they are, but who knows what the proposal is coming through. I suppose you could argue that, if Royal Mail get away, no one's safe.
Thanks, Carl, buddy. So it's a good point here, actually, from Andrew. He said, Royal Mail Parcel Force Worldwide need to realise one of the big draws of our job is our shift pattern and terms and conditions. If they impose 4 days on, 4 days off on engineering, there'll be an exodus to other employers who will work who work the same but pay extra talk about shooting themselves in the foot. And I suppose that's quite a good spot from Andrew, and one that seems to be replicated in the approach right across the piece, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is a good point. And, I've had discussions with Andrew about this up in the Parcel Force Hub. And one of our aims within this pay talks is to get the Parcel Force engineers, because they've recently moved out of international back into engineering. And, we will be looking, I know it's difficult at the moment where we are at all with pay terms and conditions, but one of the things we need to do is level up the terms and conditions of the Parcel Force engineers to the rest of engineering. But also, the point he makes is a good one. Although I do always say to people that you do need to look at the overall package and not just basic pay.
Thanks, Carl. Someone here from Helen. Can someone at CW please cover the issue of the 12-week dismissal from industrial strike action? There's obviously, legal law in the country that say, after 12 weeks, you're protected in law for strike action. After that, the employers can potentially make changes to your contracts. I mean, clearly, to do that to 115,000 people would be, a sort of an imaginary tale. We've got the RMT who have gone through 6 months of strike action, no problems. BT the same. So, but people will see that stuff. And obviously you're going to get some people in the business who probably put that around and go, oh, you're on dodgy ground if you support the strike here. But a chance to really reassure people on that one, Carl.
Yeah, this one is one that's, yet again come out from a number of managers trying to convince people around where it is. I mean, we're speaking to our legal advisors. Let me make it clear, we will not be putting people's jobs at risk. Yeah, so with regards to it, it effectively means the 12 weeks is that you're on a sorry, someone's just come in the room. This is the thing with doing things live. That you're on a it means you'd have sort of no recourse to an employment tribunal. Effectively, we're not going to put them jobs at risk, and it would mean that Royal Mail would have to get rid of everybody and then either recruit a new workforce or take everybody back. But as I've said, look, we're not going to put that people's jobs at risk. We're speaking to legal advisors around that. The business have been putting that around, and it's one of the things that they do to try and get people to turn away from the union.
Thank you, Carl. I think there's some specific questions still left in the chat. Smaller ones. I can see the local reps. By the way, thank you to the territorial reps and divisional reps who are doing a brilliant job picking up those questions, and our local reps as well. So thank you. I suppose, Carl, chance for you to deliver a final message, because obviously you're going back into talks tomorrow at ACAS. If that goes well, fantastic. If it doesn't, we've got strikes on the 24th, 25th, the 30th, and the 1st. So a message from you to our fleet and engineering members.
Yeah, look, I want to reassure you that you're sort of central to the talks as well. Your terms and conditions and what's going on in fleet and engineering are central to the talks, and I will continue to make sure that is the case. We are at ACAS. We are hoping to reach agreement. However, we have to prepare for the fact that we don't reach agreement, and that means the support for any future action that's called. And, obviously, I hope tonight that both with this session that we've given enough evidence that fleet and engineering are part of this dispute. They're not immune from what's coming. And obviously, we want to thank you for the support that you have shown. Continue to support the union and speak to the non-members. We have, there are some non-members out there, and speak to the non-members. It's not too late for them to join the union. Bring them into the union, and we will, obviously they'll be protecting their own jobs as well as supporting us. But thanks very much.
Thank you, Carl. So first of all, to say thanks to you, buddy. I think you did a great job, answered loads and loads of questions there. If people have missed, I noticed John had come on, sorry, and asked about the idea of a sell-off. Carl covered that point earlier. You can watch it all on Cash Up as soon as we finish this session. So thanks to Carl, but more importantly, thanks to all of you. It's really, really important. If you want to feel the strength and solidarity of the whole of the Royal Mail Group, that we keep the whole of the Royal Mail Group together and everyone continues to back strike action and back their local reps if that's what we need people to do. So take care, everybody, and we'll catch up with you all soon.
And my thanks to you, Chris.